everyone's selling them, and it's really disturbing because there isn't one thing that you have to take that's necessarily menopause related. I mean, after menopause, if you're taking a multivitamin, what you have to do is take one without iron in it. You're not losing iron every month and blood. So there's one thing you have to do with menopause, but and your calcium needs go up a little bit, but it's not like you all of a sudden have all of these nutrient problems that you didn't have once you lost your period. Watch out for those scams.
I also think, call me cynical, but people do have to understand that dietary supplements are not regulated like drugs in this country.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just guessing that supplement manufacturers that make all kinds of, kind of hysterical claims probably are a little bit less concerned about the quality of the products that they're putting out. Like, you're not going to see these menopause supplements from the people who make Centrum
or one a day.
You know what I mean?
No.
Companies that are trying to actually follow the science.
No.
Welcome to Cut the Crap with Beth and Matt, the world's #1 no bullshit health and fitness podcast.
Are you ready to cut the crap with your diet and exercise, get strong as fuck, and build a healthy relationship with food? Then you've come to the right place.
Let's go. If you'd like to support us in the podcast, join our Patreon where you get exclusive content, which consists of monthly workouts you can do at home or at the gym, monthly challenges that are either strength, habit, or mindset based, and access to over 100 plus low-calorie, high-protein, family-friendly meals. These are all designed by a professional chef who is certified in nutrition. These recipes are already in MyFitnessPal for easy fucking tracking. New recipes are also added each week.
We believe that fitness is for everyone, so this is our way of getting you started on your health and fitness journey at a price most everyone can afford. So what the fuck are you waiting for? We'll see you in the Patreon.
Welcome. We have Elizabeth Ward and Hillary Wright. They are back. The Menopause Diet Plan ladies. Part 2.
Part 2.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Hey, we are so excited for this because, first of all, I don't know if you realize this, but actually the episode we did with you all, it turns out, is our best ever episode. So
wow.
People fucking loved it. So
wow. Maybe that's why we got asked back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we just have, and I get asked so many menopause questions daily. And it's like, okay, we need to have these ladies back because there's a lot of things that we didn't touch on. There's just so much, right?
Yeah,
So,
there's a lot.
There is.
There's a lot. And new stuff comes out all the time too. So
yeah. I figured let's do a Q&A with our audience. And I must have like 50 questions.
Wow.
Really?
I shit you not. Yeah. I
don't have quite as many, but
Matt has like 5.
Is there any?
Come on, guys, give me questions too.
Is there any pattern to them? Is there any like overriding themes?
Actually, which I was kind of surprised about, having menopause symptoms after menopause.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get right into questions, Hillary and Elizabeth, did you know that Beth is now starting to really go through the change herself?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
we've been talking about that.
Yes.
We've been talking about that a lot here lately. So
Yeah.
It's been a
night.
It crushes me when I watch your TikTok videos.
I was in it right then.
I was really upset for you that day.
So when we did our podcast in Florida, that's when they started to really come to a head. And I think I've started to mention it then. I was like, I'm getting like more hot flashes during the day, which was never a thing for me. Mm-hmm. And then hot flashes at night. And I don't know if it was the hot weather that triggered it. It continued. And so, losing so much sleep, it started to catch up with me because, it was exhausting. I would wake up drenched to the point where I'd actually have to change my shirt. And then I started getting really tired. And I'm like, I just can't do this anymore. So I called my OBGYN and I visited her and she's like, I feel like we should start you on a low dose of birth control first. And we'll try that. And if that doesn't work, let's go to HRT. So I've been doing that for about I'd say a little 5-6 weeks now. I don't have any more hot flashes. My energy is back. But the only thing now is that I have reoccurring like TMI bleeding. So I called them again today and they're like, you know what, let's just keep going for a little bit. It might level out. And if it continues to be bothersome, then we're going to do something else. But they want me to stick with it for a little bit more.
My sister had an estrogen patch for hot flashes.
Mm-hmm.
And after a period of time, she couldn't wear it anymore because she was getting this dermatitis from the patch. And so she took the patch off and for whatever reason, her hot flashes never came back as bad afterwards.
Interesting.
I know.
They're very mysterious.
Isn't it the thing? I find that menopause symptoms or perimenopause symptoms, they fluctuate, right? They'll be really intense and then you won't feel anything for a little bit. And then
the roller coaster ride of, estrogen and other hormones, like up, down. So that's what produces the symptoms.
Yeah.
It's really interesting too. I've had a client lately who has gone, she's figured out she's going through perimenopause because of her symptoms, because she had a hysterectomy a few years ago. So she has no weird period stuff going on telling her.
She has no uterus.
She has no uterus.
But she has ovaries.
But she has ovaries.
Okay.
And so it's like she's trying to navigate what she thinks is happening based on not being able to factor in the weird period stuff that is a major tells you that something weird is going on.
Right. That's really a first sign.
So it's been interesting conversations.
Yeah, for sure. So it's interesting navigating this while being on social media and talking about it and have women, come to me and ask me all these questions. And I get confused with all the information myself. I'm like, you guys have to stop giving me you should do this, don't do this and do that. And I'm like, I can't, I'm already working with my doctor. You can't give them information that you don't know someone's past or, their medical history. Some people
we were just talking about that.
We have clarity on that piece.
Just talking about that.
It's stop saying, you should take some herb. That helped me. Yes, that's what it was. Go get some black cohosh. That'll solve everything. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't stop.
Too much. So I can, I always say this because I work part-time at a cancer treatment place in Boston. I mean, talk about a tortured population, people constantly telling them what they should be doing.
Yeah.
And there are people that love them and don't want them to die of cancer, but all the information, all it does is stress them out more.
Yeah.
There comes a point where you have to have a trusted, your doctor. You obviously have, it sounds like you have a good rapport. If you don't have a good rapport with your doctor, try to find somebody else and just close the door, because there's so much information that you'd be like, oh God. What if I did this one random thing?
Yeah, especially with cancer. I can't imagine that everyone's got give up sugar or, the whole don't do chemo. It's poison. I mean, some of it, it's actually not good advice.
It's dangerous.
It's dangerous.
Life-threatening.
What's interesting is the misinformation about sugar feeds cancer is if you eat a Hershey Kiss, it's going to beeline around your body looking for cancer cells. It's all over the world. I've had these sugar conversations with people from Saudi Arabia, Africa. We get people from all over the world at our cancer treatment place. I'm like, that through the interpreter, I'm getting, I heard that sugar feeds cancer in Arabic, in, Dubai. I'm like, oh, Jesus, it's everywhere.
I know.
Thank you, Internet.
Yeah, no kidding. All right. So we're ready to get into it then?
Yeah. Sure. Matt, do you want to shoot off your first question?
Yeah, because I've got so many of them. Okay. So here's a question from Mary on Facebook. She says, does HRT help with sleep disruptions not related to night sweats?
I don't know that we can answer that because we're not doctors.
Not doctors, so we can't, but I've never heard of that. No, I think that the primary, from the little that I know, and I will preface the answer with that, the little that I know about HRT and hot flashes is that it's just going to work on the hot flash itself, which is the night sweats when it happens at night.
Right. I mean, night sweats are just hot flashes that are happening at night.
Right.
And, as people get older too, sleep gets sketchier. So it is one of those things that might be multifactorial and, life gets stressful.
Well, I mean, the rates for anxiety and depression go up in midlife women. And there's a lot, as we always say, there's a lot going on in your life at midlife. So maybe something's wearing on your mind. Yeah, we don't know. We can't say. We're not psychiatrists. We're not, another type of doctor. So this is something that you really want to talk to your doctor about.
Okay.
Because there's always going to be a pro-con conversation going on based on somebody's individual circumstances.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Love it. Go consult your doctor, please.
Yeah. All right. We have one from Christy. This is a great question. I believe actually I shared a video of you ladies about the forgetfulness. So anything that helps with the forgetfulness. Been looking for my main set of car keys for 3 days.
That sucks.
All I can say about forgetfulness is my dear friend Donna, who's about 10 years older than me, when I was getting super distressed about the forgetfulness, because for me, that was the most stress-inducing side effect.
Distressing.
She said, don't worry, it gets better. And it did. It does get better. It doesn't go away, as evidenced by me walking out of the room twice.
I just asked her to get something for me, and she twice did not get it.
Oh,
so
my
I
goodness.
had to remind her, but that's okay because that's the way it is. It is good to be the same age as a good friend because then you get it.
Yeah.
But if you look at the research, and we have a whole chapter on brain health in our book. If you look at the research says, going through that perimenopausal period, women's cognition in some areas, the cognition and memory is very complicated. And I'm not, a neuroscientist, so I can't even go into all the areas. But when you look at, when you test women, they don't do as well as they did beforehand. But if you test them again later on, most of them have recovered, they've recovered from those fluctuations. Like Hillary was saying, that was in the anecdotal thing, but there's research to back it up. But you always want to keep your brain as healthy as possible. Too, right?
It's a complex thing that is happening, on a continuum. What are you doing and how is it affecting your brain? So, again, we live in a culture where kind of like during this phase of my life, my brain is messed up. Is there some supplement I can take or some food I can eat to fix my brain? That's not nutrition works. Mm-hmm. So we do have evidence that eating, a plant forward diet. There was this recent study about, I keep meaning to ask you about that, about the multivitamins and improved cognition and older people.
Yes.
So it's not something that you can eat or take and your cognition is going to get better this month.
Right.
But there are certainly things that you can do. It's very consistent with everything we talk about in the book. That's good for brain health.
Well, anything that protects your heart, protects your brain. And again, I think her question was like, is this ever going to get better? And the answer to that is probably yes. You think you're at the beginnings of dementia because
I was just going to say that. I feel like that sometimes.
Well, you put the ice cream in the cereal cabinet. Okay. And then 2 days later you come back and you're like, what the hell?
It's the names for me. I'll see someone that I know in the grocery store and I've known them for years. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't remember their name. And I will go into a panic. Like, please don't recognize me.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, it's like, hey, you.
Harry. And they say your name. And you're like, oh, you're younger than me. Of course you can remember my name. It's really distressing. But you know what? I just let it slide now because I do it all the time. It happens like at least once a day because, that's just the way it is. I know I don't have dementia. I'm a little bit older than I was. And, what you do from now on is, you just take as good of a care of your brain as you possibly can.
I think the hearing it that it's in general, it's going to get better is helpful. Like I couldn't transcribe a series of numbers from here to here, that's why I really noticed it. I'm like, oh, that's somebody's medical record number, blah, 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 blah. And then I'd be like, what was that number? Now I actually can do that better. Yes. So, I don't know. It's kind of it sounds like the booby prize, but that's what we got on that topic.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So kind of a side note to that, then you say, take care of your brain. How can we, what do you mean by when you say take care of your brain?
Okay,
what are some things that we could look at there?
Okay, so many things. I mean, everything that applies to taking care of your heart applies to your brain. Okay. It's the same. So you want to make sure that you are limiting or avoiding alcohol because it's toxic, to a lot of the cells and tissues in your body. You want to make sure that your weight is within, a normal range as possible, that you're exercising on a regular basis, you're controlling your blood pressure, you're paying attention to your blood cholesterol, your LDL levels, which is the bad cholesterol, and your HDL levels, which is the good cholesterol. You're managing your stress, you're eating a lot of fruits and vegetables, not smoking.
And eating basically an anti-inflammatory diet. So just like with every aspect of chronic disease, there's an issue with inflammation and the effect it can have on your brain. So the same principles apply for an anti-inflammatory diet, one that is higher in fruits and vegetables, nuts, seeds, and beans than probably the average person is eating. So there's generally needs to be a more emphasis to get to the next level with that. Eating seafood, maybe trying seafood. Sometimes people decide early in life they don't like it, but their taste might change. Omega-3s are good for your brain.
Yep.
More poultry, less red meat, minimal processed meat, not a lot of added sugars. So nothing, as you guys know from us talking before, nothing is never eat this list of foods.
Right.
It's important for people to appreciate. We're talking about a dietary pattern. We're not talking about eat these anti-inflammatory foods and your health will be fine, as if the other foods you eat don't matter.
Yeah.
So it's the pattern that we try to sort of reinforce over and over again. And this is as evidenced by the MIND diet, which we talk about a lot in our book.
You just mentioned the multivitamin study. There was a very good study that came out that we did a post about that said that taking a multivitamin every day was good for memory. And it was a randomized control trial. So very high quality, considered gold standard. And all they used was, they actually used Centrum, a Centrum brand. You can go to CVS, Walgreens, get it on Amazon, just your basic multivitamin, take that every day. And that played a role in brain health. I take a multivitamin every day. I'm doing it for years. So
I've started putting in my multivitamin a little pill thing so that I can remember to take it.
Yep.
Along with vitamin.
Make it easier.
Yeah.
I think this is a really good one. So this is from Joe on Facebook. He says, dealing with a spouse going through menopause can be difficult. Any tips for the husbands? I think this is a great conversation for people like myself and other men out there.
I mean, nothing probably speaks louder than asking, how are you doing? Can you help me understand what you're going through? Because, people's emotions change, going through this. There's a lot going on, when your hormones are fluctuating and your period's all over the place and, you're being reminded that you're aging, there's a lot that goes into this. So I can't think of anything besides try to be a good listener and try to be understanding, but I don't know.
And I don't even know of a good resource for men, but just it could be anything. You could read the Menopause Manifesto, which is a fabulous book to understand what's going on with, your female partner or anyone that's a female that's going through it. And you will get a very good basic understanding. And then, like Hillary said, just, how can I help? I realize that you're going through a major life change. And not only is the woman going through it, but everyone else around them is also going through it. So the more understanding there is, the better the transition, the easier the transition will be. Not to say that it will be easy, but
maybe have them listen to a couple of these podcasts, Matt.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Joe.
This way. Yeah, there you go, Joe.
Maybe husbands would be more likely to listen to a podcast than to read a book.
Yeah, for sure.
But definitely. So ladies, if your husband likes podcasts and you want him to help understand you a little bit better, send him to this episode.
Yeah. All right. Is it normal to have hot flashes after the age of 65?
Yes, it is. There's a pretty high percentage of women that continue on with hot flashes after menopause has occurred.
Gosh.
So I hate to say it, but I think they're kind of like the forgotten group too, because, people are like, what, hot flash? You're too old for a hot flash. That nobody's too old for anything. If it happens, it happens. And it's kind of disturbing to know that, there's a fair amount of people, women, that could actually have hot flashes at that age.
Wow.
Hopefully they become fewer and farther between.
Yeah. And less severe.
So
but don't be afraid. I mean, anyone listening to this, don't be afraid that it's going to happen to you. Yeah.
Got it. And what is it that really causes hot flashes? Is it the changes in estrogen?
Changes in estrogen can affect your nervous system's perception of temperature shifts.
There's an area in the brain that perceives temperature, and that plunging estrogen level tells your brain your body is about to overheat. The rest of the body is about to overheat and kicks it into action. So what it does is it does whatever it can do to cool it down, because the brain's goal is to keep the core temperature where it's supposed to be. So you don't fry, that's really why you don't want to get too hot. Like when you have a fever, that's why we bring the fever down, because we want to keep all of the functions, going normally. Right. So it mistakenly thinks that you are heating up. You're not. And so it directs the flow of blood to your skin, and it dilates your blood vessels, and it makes you sweat, because sweating is how you release heat from your body.
So dressing in layers and having maybe layers of different, like weight of bedding on your bed, so some people maybe historically slept with like a big comforter, and now they need layers of sheets and blankets. It's your body just kind of getting a little confused as to what it needs to do to temperature regulate.
Okay.
All right.
I'm 33. What could I do to prepare to be in the best position for menopause when it does happen?
Oh,
Read our book.
Oh, I love you. Thank you for asking that question.
Yay.
Right? Being proactive rather than reactive.
Oh, what a great question. I mean, it is everything in our book, obviously. I'm so glad someone's interested in that. I just can't get over that. That's so great. Mm-hmm. Well, let me just start by saying that, the better health you're in, the lower the risk for things like hot flashes and other symptoms of menopause. That came out of the Framingham Heart Study. So you want to make sure that you are doing everything that we talked about before, which is, eating a balanced diet, like Hillary said, that includes seafood twice a week. That's plant-based, but not necessarily free of animal foods. We do not mean that. But
we like foods for fun too. Everybody's allowed foods for fun.
Absolutely. We love our chocolate. We love our chips. And
I think in that age bracket too, it's really helpful to try to develop a healthy relationship with food. Like women in their 30s, there's a lot going on. And they're very involved in social media, many of them, and very influenceable. So to be mindful of, kind of establishing those healthy eating patterns through these years so that you're not over restricting. I had a really interesting conversation with a young woman with breast cancer yesterday, just trying to teach her how her body works so she would stop exercising a ton and eating no carbs. So to be mindful of good nutrition is much more about what are you eating. And so to put, learn how to put healthful food into your body and prioritize some food preparation and some dedication of time to the self-care involved in eating decently most of the time. Because women in that age bracket also often have young children, and I always say kids learn to eat with their eyes. Meaning your kids are going to watch you and how you behave around food.
Right.
So to just really kind of get into this plant-based eating thing, but also be mindful of your behavior around food, because that will serve you well, through that aging process. So you don't have to feel like you got to figure it all out when you're in the throes of hot flashes and, kind of all kinds of craziness that's suddenly happening.
I think listening to, the two of you and getting the way you guys tell people to get their ducks in a row is really great, because at 33, or people in their 30s may still be good. They may go on to have a baby. They may have one or two more babies before menopause hits, but the principles are generally the same. The only thing I would say is that, a lot of women skimp on protein. And they've been skimping for decades before menopause comes along. And then once you hit 50-ish, or in your 40s, you really do need more protein in order to keep the muscle mass and to make the muscle mass. So start early, get used to eating, enough protein or maybe more protein than you eat. And just like Hillary said, have that healthy relationship with food and your body, and know that, as time goes on, things do change, your body changes, but nutrition and exercise, of course, is going to help, alleviate some of those changes.
Yeah.
And I think, when I say try to develop a healthy relationship with food, again, we live in a culture where good nutrition is defined by how many foods I can deprive myself of. And those things can develop some pretty deep roots when you're a young adult, that if you then, we've talked before about how after adolescence, women in their 40s, pretty decent rates of eating disorders, which seems like, it doesn't surprise me at all, because I see the evolution of this starting younger, and the roots of restriction get deeper and deeper and deeper. Yeah. And then you get to this point where, okay, we're now telling you to eat more. So we're telling you to eat more of the foods that your body really needs, enough protein, fruits and vegetables, enough carbohydrates, healthy fats, if you've spent, the last 20, 25 years depriving yourself, that sometimes can be a really difficult mindset to shift out of.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I see you guys talking about that all the time. You need to eat more.
Yeah.
Eating. Stop
Absolutely.
starving yourself.
Nourish our bodies, people.
Right. I was just thinking this question is so great because I can't imagine not have been prepared like I am in my 50s and then suddenly like not even focusing on protein, not exercising, and suddenly being hit with menopause at the same time and having to revamp my entire like lifestyle as I'm going through menopause. That has got to be really difficult. So being proactive rather than reactive is the way to go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've counseled plenty of women that, have, hit their 40s, they're 40, 45, and they're like, where is this weight coming from? Because they've never had to think about their weight. And I think in not having to think about their weight, they were, they didn't always think about their nutrition as well. So they don't have that mindset. And then like it hits them like a ton of bricks and they say, what's going on? Well, you're aging. Number one, I mean, you are getting older and you have to do something to fight against that. And that would be exercise, of course, and then enough protein and et cetera, et cetera. But, so you're aging at the same time you're going through menopause or perimenopause. That is something to keep in mind because not everything is menopause's fault.
Yeah.
Right.
It also reminds me of what we have said a lot, being aware that things need to adjust with your calorie balance much earlier than many women appreciate. So a lot of women don't start thinking about it until it's like, whoa, I woke up like, wow, I'm in menopause. Geez, I've gained all this weight and it's belly fat, blah, blah, blah. And based on the research that we did in writing the book, it actually starts more like in your 40s. Mm-hmm. So if you continue to eat in your 40s the way you ate in your 20s and 30s, it's probably going to be the rare woman that won't have a weight shift because the amount of calories we need goes down as we get older. So earlier awareness to your person's question is good to just, keep an eye out on, am I young person habits following me, beyond the 30s and into the 40s and just have a little bit more earlier awareness.
Okay. In there, you also mentioned the calorie balance and calorie balance symptoms. So if we're talking about calorie balance, then what are some symptoms that we can look out for that maybe our calorie balance is really in the negative? Well,
I mean, a lot of women will say, I haven't done anything different and I'm gaining. Mm-hmm. So that means, we have to account for the fact that like 60 to 70% of the calories we burn go towards the internal work of keeping us alive and feeding our muscle mass and the calorie demand of just keeping a body going, that's going to shift down some as we go through perimenopause and menopause, particularly if to that point you've not really gotten serious about the strength training things. So we're we're constantly badgering people about the strength training because it's one of the few things that we can do to contribute to that. How many calories you're burning 24 hours a day? But we hear that all the time. I really didn't do anything different. I started gaining weight. Well, that's because as you get older, you don't need as many calories, to keep your metabolism fueled. And that will accelerate if you never really got serious about the strength training piece, preferably earlier rather than later, because we're not farmers anymore. We're not chopping our own wood.
We're not using our bodies for work anymore.
So we're not doing it passively, very few people.
What perimenopause does do, though, is it changes your body composition. And there have been, good studies that show that, over time that women are, Hillary talked about age. If you're not changing your calories, you're going to gain and you're going to lose muscle at the same time because estrogen is good for your muscles. Estrogen, it doesn't allow your muscles to become infiltrated with fat. Your muscles can get fat. So a lot of people don't know that. And it's not something that you want to even think about. And it also controls inflammation in your muscle tissue. And if there's inflammation, chronic inflammation in your muscle tissue, it decreases the mass little by little by little. So you're getting a lot of all these little tiny paper cuts, all over the place that are there's probably not one huge thing, but like Hillary says it, people, women wake up and they say, what happened? I gained 10 pounds, but it was really happening all along. It was. And, and then you get to the 10
It's a gradual
pounds,
shift.
Yeah. Now it's obvious.
Because nobody, so, way too few conversations are happening around these progressive changes that start a lot earlier than women would expect them to. So that's part of what we want to do, is get women talking about this earlier, as opposed to experiencing, however much weight gain. Because, let's face it, we live in a culture where the default is to gain weight as you get older, unless you're really swimming upstream or you're genetically really blessed. So when you're talking about the fat, and I'm like thinking of like a fatty steak, like marbling.
That's
marbling in our muscles.
Marbling in your muscles.
So, we can't prevent our estrogen levels from declining, in the exception of, hormone replacement therapy, but we can continue to use our muscles forever. And that's, I think a really important message that a lot of women are still need to hear more of, because there's a lot of people that are walking a lot and doing kind of that cardio piece, but they're not, exerting their muscles in a way that are needed to get your body to decide these muscles are valuable. I'm going to hold on to them.
Use it or lose it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Use it or lose it.
Especially because, as we age, and this is for men as well with sarcopenia, right? Like we need to be doing everything we can to combat that with strength training and high protein and
Exactly.
We all know that a complete night of sleep is essential when we're working towards optimizing our wellness and general well-being. And after all, we regularly talk about the importance of sleep on Cut the Crap. Now, Cured's Sleep Bundle, which combines their best-selling Zen and most potent CBN, is the answer to guaranteeing that you get that full night of sleep every single time. Zen is a blend of functional mushrooms, adaptogens, and full-spectrum cannabinoids. The CBN extract is a lesser-known cannabinoid found in the hemp plant, and these supplements were designed to support the two most critical stages of your body's natural sleep cycle, REM sleep and non-REM deep sleep. Cured's raw CBN oil contains 30 milligrams of CBD and 5 milligrams of CBN. And together, the CBD and CBN create a synergistic whole body effect. And when it starts to kick in, you'll notice every inch of your body soften into a deeper state of relaxation, as if you're laying beneath the comfort of a weighted blanket. And once you're asleep, Zen is there to ensure that your body is successfully cycling out of non-REM deep sleep into REM and back again. Now, some people can't fall asleep. Others can't stay asleep. And then there are those that fall asleep and stay asleep, but still struggle to spend enough time in each sleep stage. And this is definitely me. No matter what is keeping you from true rest and restoration, the Sleep Bundle is your solution. Think of it as a 1-2 punch for a body and brain reset. I've personally never been one to struggle with falling and staying asleep, but like I said, I have definitely struggled with getting quality sleep. I don't know what the heck I'm doing in my sleep, but it certainly wasn't quality. And ever since I started incorporating the Cured Sleep Bundle into my bedtime routine, I wake up feeling refreshed and energetic instead of groggy and lethargic. In return, this allows me to tackle my busy life in a cool, calm, and collected way, ready to take on any challenge that presents itself. And right now, Cured is extending an exclusive offer to you, our listeners. You can grab Zen and CBN in the Sleep Bundle for an extra 20% off of Cured's already discounted price by visiting curednutrition.com/CTC and using the coupon code CTC at checkout. With this extra discount, you're getting 36% off the regular price. Yep, that's curednutrition.com/CTC and coupon code CTC at checkout to save an extra 20%. Improve your sleep, improve your life.
Awesome. All right. So can you explain the difference between perimenopause and menopause?
Sure. So perimenopause is the period of time leading, I didn't mean to say period, but it's a
Pun.
phase of life, phase of time leading up to menopause, which is actually just one day. Okay. Now we use the terms and people use them interchangeably, but perimenopause can last between like 4 and 10 years. And it is marked by irregular periods, the fluctuating estrogen levels, hot flashes, sleep problems, a long list of potential symptoms. Does not mean you're going to have any of them. It does not mean you're going to have all of them. But then menopause is when you've gone 12 months in a row without a period. And you haven't been pregnant, you haven't been breastfeeding, you haven't been ill in a way that would, or like super stressed out in a way that would take your period away. And once you've gone those 12 calendar months in a row, now that day's menopause. Okay. And every
Menopause day.
and every day after that is postmenopause. And that's the another area that we want women to continue to think about, because they often say, "Oh, I'm over that, man. I'm over menopause."
I mean, the emphasis in the book is about transition through this, but this is healthy aging,
Right?
Because now you're facing the rest of your life. But perimenopause, I think of it like this: this is your estrogen levels. It's doing this, and it's all the wiggling around, the surges and the drops that causes a lot of the symptoms. Menopause is when your estrogen levels are now down here.
Mm.
So then your body can actually have something that it can adjust to, instead of being confused by all these hormonal fluctuations. And those fluctuations are going to feel different to different people. Some people will have more symptoms, some people will have less.
This is a statistic I don't think a lot of people know, but women can live in the postmenopause phase. They can live 30 to 40% of their years.
Wow.
In the postmenopause phase. So that question about preparing for menopause, it's so excellent, because as I said, the menopause is one day, and then there's all that time after it. What are you going to do with that? How are you going to prepare for that?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a big chunk of your life. And that's natural menopause. We're not, I mean, there's sudden menopause, right? And there's early menopause, and that could be an even longer period of life.
That's what I was saying to this young woman yesterday. She has to go on hormone. She's got this BRCA gene that she has to have her ovaries removed at a young age. So she is facing early menopause.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was trying to communicate some of the extra special concerns about that. Somebody in the early 30s that's going to abruptly be thrown into this phase. And the conversation evolved with this is the body we have. This is the one body that we have. So what can we do in your 30s into your 40s to preserve your bone health, your muscle mass, support your immune system? Because the way we treat our bodies early in life has everything to do with how well our body's going to perform for us later in life. And we talk all the time about hospitals, doctors can keep you alive, but that doesn't mean your quality of life is great if you're so people can do everything, quote unquote, right, and still have bad things happen to them. But the odds are, it's a pretty good odds game to play, start thinking about this early, treat this one body we have as well as we can without it needing to be perfect.
Right. Yep. And so menopause is technically just like you said, one day, but you don't even know it's happening until 12 months. Is that unless you get a blood test, right?
I know somebody had a period after 11 months.
Yeah.
One of my friends, and then she had to start the clock.
Yeah.
All over.
Oh man.
I think I had to start the clock at 7 months one time. I was like, gosh,
So
really? Okay.
And so when I hear
on every phase,
when I hear someone say I've been in menopause in 10 years, that's pretty impossible. They're probably in perimenopause for that amount of time. Because I get that a lot. I've been in menopause forever.
No.
I'm like, well, I don't think that's
forever in menopause is after that menopause day at 12 months. Now you're over menopause thereafter.
We always say,
but it doesn't, have to ask yourself.
Menopause day.
Really matter.
Right.
well,
You know what I mean?
If you think about it,
You're older, you're going to take care of your body, and that's it.
menopause is permanent. It's permanent. And I think that the whole thing about perimenopause is it's not permanent. It's temporary.
It's a
And
transition.
menopause
phase.
is permanent. Postmenopause is the next phase.
Gotcha. Okay.
Also known as the rest of your life.
Yeah.
A whole nother lifetime for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Woohoo. All right, Matt.
All
you got
right.
another one?
I actually had another one come in while we were doing this.
Nice.
This is a good one, actually. It's more of a nutrition related question. Can adaptogens help with menopause symptoms?
Adaptogens help with menopause.
So,
I'm not very up on adaptogens.
I'm not sure what the research shows
No,
there.
I don't think I can give an educated, informed answer.
I do know that there's a lot of talk about adaptogens and mushrooms and roots and all those things being of course it's sensationalized,
I mean, if you went to, a Chinese medicine doctor, they probably would have a lot to say about that. That's a whole additional area of study.
Mm-hmm.
Herbalism, it's, you can only really be that informed about so many things. And I don't like to wade into things that I can't give real informed answers on.
Yeah.
I don't think it's helpful.
Sorry.
We don't know. Yeah. Hey, that's an answer that we don't know. That's a great answer. And that's
I think so too. Yeah.
It takes a smart person to admit when they don't know something. Mm-hmm. So
all I can say is no matter what the adaptogen someone's wondering about, it's not going to compensate for a lousy diet, not exercising and all that.
That's probably the
bada bing, bada boom.
That's the foundation right there. And then maybe, we had a really interesting presentation. I heard about mushrooms from one of our interns from the Brigham and Women's yesterday. Fascinating. The conclusion is too early to tell, but
more research
is going to compensate for an otherwise, unhealthful lifestyle.
Right.
Totes. All right.
Totes.
Totes my goats.
Totes. Okay. Is flax meal good for menopause symptoms?
Well, flaxseed contains phytoestrogens. Omega-3s. So yes. So, and omega-3s are anti-inflammatory. So sure. But there's really no research that says that, they do very much in terms of.
No, but I mean, it's just a very appropriate protein. Part of an anti-inflammatory diet. And, we don't know everything, but there's no reason not to eat flax meal. So I love when people say meal and not seeds, because you have to meal them.
You have to grind them to get the benefits.
Or else really?
Right through you.
Okay, makes sense.
So it gets released.
Corn. It's like
okay.
Perfect. That's a good analogy. Yeah.
I'm having a visual now.
I don't know what kind of a visual you're having there, but
I don't know. Well, never mind. It's a joke. My husband, we have known each other since we were in high school. So, we were teens, and he would say this to me: "You're so pretty, I'd eat the corn out of your shit." Okay.
That is a compliment. That's
he loves you.
So this was when we were 17 and 16. So, you can imagine, but every time someone talks about corn, it reminds me that statement he said to me.
And you remember that all those years later.
Say anything like that to me.
Did you swoon when he said that to you?
I think we were drinking, but
your heart was not going. Like a cartoon.
So there we go.
That's so funny.
Oh, man. Okay, let's see. What do I got? I have a lot of repeat questions, covering a lot.
We are.
Okay, so this is a good question. Insomnia. I'm not HRT eligible. Should I consider melatonin or magnesium? What could I do for better sleep?
So some people will do well with magnesium. It's one of those things you have to experiment with. Just don't take too much at once, or you might have some major GI problems. So melatonin definitely can help. I hear mixed feelings as to whether people should automatically just start taking melatonin, because I think your body can adjust to it. Some of the stuff that I've read, that if you use it like here and there when you really seem to need it, it may be more effective than if you use it every single night. People have to experiment. The other thing, some people say if they use CBD, it may help with their sleep. Other people might say, combination THC, CBD for people that's appropriate for.
Right.
So, requires experimentation. Certainly worth trying, short of taking medication if you can. But, some people have good luck with it. I don't know how to feel about melatonin. I just don't know if people should commit to taking it every single night.
I took it for a while. Again, it's purely anecdotal. And it worked for me for a couple of weeks. And then I started having very weird dreams, like really weird, like disturbing. So I stopped. With any of these supplements that people are wondering about, there's a really good resource called the Office of Dietary Supplements, and it's run by the government. And it's all the latest research on supplements. So I use it all the time. And I go there and I'll look something up, anything that I'm wondering about. So
what is the name of it again?
It's the Office of Dietary Supplements.
Okay.
You can just search that and it will come right up.
Health professional.
Go to Google and you put in ODS and then melatonin or something.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But, there's other things that people can do. There's, my sister swears by chamomile tea. I think the evidence is mixed on that, but what's the harm in drinking a cup of tea to chill yourself out at night? There's lots of strategies around shutting down the technology, making sure your room is really dark.
Yeah.
The screen time thing is well known to potentially interfere with people's sleep. So
Well, there's definitely sleep hygiene routines. We do talk about them in the book. We're not sleep experts, but poor sleep is a huge problem for women at this age. But I think that if it's truly insomnia, which is debilitating, like occasional insomnia, like I was telling Hillary, I woke up at 4:00 this morning. That's when I started my day. Well, no, thank you. I was planning on sleeping till 6:30, but I woke up and so that's an occasional thing. But chronic insomnia is
I can't imagine.
Dangerous too.
Yeah.
If people really have trouble sleeping, some people may be good candidates for a sleep study. Maybe they have sleep apnea.
Right.
In my experience with people taking melatonin, I also think it's good to start small and build up because people seem to have different reactions to this.
Yeah.
Meaning start with like a milligram. I wouldn't jump right into the, 5 milligrams of melatonin. You might sleep for 16 hours or something.
Or you might just
I've taken it on occasion and it definitely helps. But you want to experiment with like how early do you have to take it to get some assistance without waking up feeling like you're completely hungover. But I think people react to it differently. So start slow.
Yeah.
And so what causes the sleep disturbances as you age? Like if there's no hot flashes and things like that, because that's, kind of something that I've struggled with. It's like 2 a.m. Let's wake up. There's no hot flash, but I'm like ready to go. Is that like hormone related?
I don't know.
We don't know.
I think that's
sleep is fascinating. And like at Brigham and Women's where, you work, there's a whole sleep lab. I mean, there's people that just specialize in sleep and it is fascinating.
Yeah.
But I think, what I was saying earlier, I think your circadian clock can get out of whack too as you get older and you have trouble with that.
I mean, I also think being physically active helps your sleep for most people.
Yeah.
But, I've just accepted as I've gotten older that I'm going to wake up in the middle of the night sometime. And it's so interesting. I think it is a circadian rhythm, like when you come closer to the surface between sleep cycles or something, because I've had more conversations. I'm doing it less now, but more starting in perimenopause and moving forward, something about like 3:12 a.m. I just wake up.
Oh God.
So
we've had those
learn to not get like upset about it.
Right.
And that one person I know, I have one friend who can still sleep till like 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm like,
oh my gosh. I can't, those days, I can't imagine anymore. The days when you had that deep sleep, you don't even go to the bathroom. Like, you're like
a baby or dog.
10 to 8 a.m. like that. There's no way that would happen. Like, pre-child sleep.
I just try to have a kind of a not real interesting book on my Kindle that I'll just read for
get bored with
20, 30 minutes. And I can usually, kick the covers off, get cold, roll over, go back to sleep. I mean, because the more upset you get about the fact that you're not sleeping, definitely doesn't help.
That's why I got out of bed this morning. I woke up, I made a cup of tea and I started working. What am I going to do? Lie in bed and be mad?
But there are, for people that have, significant sleep problems can be a huge life wrecker. So there are experts in this area and people should seek out the assistance from a sleep clinic to get some advice. Because
don't struggle. I feel like a lot of people will just try to live through it. They're like, I've been struggling for this for forever. It's like, why? Go get yourself some help. Like you don't have to suffer. So many women suffer and they don't need to be.
Right.
It makes me really sad.
Yeah.
Which actually will lead into this question, which I could think is pretty interesting. Do you feel like more women are coming out and speaking about menopause? And do you think there's more help today to help women through menopause?
Yes, definitely.
For sure. Yeah.
And I think it's different since I want to say that Liz and I were sort of riding the wave because our book came out in September 2020. And there were not a lot of people talking about menopause. I mean, it's changed a lot, I think, even in the last year to 2 years. So I think, and there's more resources and, NAMS is out there, the North American Menopause Society, resources of plug in your zip code and we'll find you physicians that are specifically interested in what you're going through. I think so.
There's a greater demand for information, but there's also, menopause has become like a gold mine, in a lot of ways. And there are a lot of celebrities. Yes, with my supplements.
It's our most unfavorite three words.
Balance your hormones.
What does that even mean?
There's a lot of celebrities out there who, have turned 50 and think they know everything about menopause and are willing to sell you a lot of their products and a lot of their supplements that are complete crap. So I think it's become easier for women to talk about it, but sometimes harder to discern the information. So there are even doctors that are shady, and it's
exploiting. It's just one more phase where you can be exploited, right? Right. But I remember reading something that suggested that like some cosmetic companies, that make like face creams will like take basically the same product, put it in one packaging for young women, one packaging for older women, and charge the older women more.
I would believe that. I would believe that.
Wow. Because, older women have more money maybe, and they think they can just kind of hijack. Whenever I talk to my, Harvard educated practicing dermatologist who's like a total genius, and I start talking to him about face cream, and he's like, yeah. He doesn't want to tell me what to do, but he's like, I wouldn't spend, $45 for 0.7 ounces of that stuff in that tube.
But you can probably get $5 somewhere else, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The thing that really
says just moisturize your skin.
There you go.
And wear sunscreen.
And
one of the things that really gets us in terms of more menopause information being out there is all these menopause supplements that women, feel like they must have to take. Well, everyone's selling them, and it's really disturbing because there isn't one thing that you have to take that's necessarily menopause related. I mean, after menopause, if you're taking a multivitamin, what you have to do is take one without iron in it. You're not losing iron every month and blood. So there's one thing you have to do with menopause, but and your calcium needs go up a little bit, but it's not like you all of a sudden have all of these nutrient problems that you didn't have once you lost your period. Watch out for those scams.
I also think, call me cynical, but people do have to understand that dietary supplements are not regulated like drugs in this country. So I'm just guessing that supplement manufacturers that make all kinds of, kind of hysterical claims probably are a little bit less concerned about the quality of the products that they're putting out. Like, you're not going to see these menopause supplements from the people that make Centrum
or one a day.
You know what I mean?
No.
Companies that are trying to actually follow the science.
No.
Right.
But,
too much at risk.
It's money that could be spent on vegetables and things like that.
Yeah.
Real food.
So what would you say would be red flags for women looking for help with menopause? Number one would be the bullshit supplements.
What would you say, Beth?
Number one my guess would be the selling or buying into the bullshit supplements.
Well, anything that says like menopause supplement on it, women definitely need supplements. I mean, we were just talking about taking a multivitamin.
Right.
You probably need a little bit of calcium.
But there's not a menopause multivitamin.
Right.
No,
But you don't need
no.
Okay.
So it's called an over 50 silver.
Over 50, because you don't need the iron unless you still have a period. You definitely still need the iron, right? So you have to kind of stipulate that.
Okay.
But I
think over-promising, anything that sounds like it's just
relieving your hot flashes. I mean, really, the only thing that has been shown to do that is hormone therapy. And a lot of these supplements that are out there, they'll say, clinically tested. That's a buzzword that you should
clinically tested.
Clinically tested, because clinically tested means I did a little experiment in my office or in, the company,
on some rabbits.
Could be with people, but it's not in a peer-reviewed scientific journal where other people can come along and say, hey, this is an issue or that's an issue or what about this? So that's what we like. We like
most supplements have those clinical studies backing them, and that's it. No peer review, no human controls or anything.
Yeah.
It's overwhelmingly the evidence is around food. So we talk a lot in the book about maybe you need calcium. Pretty much everybody needs vitamin D. B12 is a good idea, particularly if you're on, acid blocking medication or metformin. But supplements are not the solution to the issues that we're really dealing with. They may fill some gaps, but they're not the solution. Now it's easier to take a supplement and feel like you're doing something. So I understand like people's motivation, but
I know. I mean, people are in pain. They are suffering, with hot flashes, with sleep problems. They don't know why they're gaining weight and they want a solution. And rather than digging deep, you guys talk about it all the time, doing the work, rather than digging deep and taking a really good look, like maybe they don't have the time to do that. Maybe they're super stressed out and they're a single parent and they're caring for an older parent, that there's so many different ways that your time can get used up, that you say, well, maybe I'll try this. I'll try this supplement or that.
Yeah. Maybe you need a new clinician if you feel like you're not being heard.
Right. Absolutely.
There's a whole thing about women feeling gaslit by healthcare professionals. And, I have a tremendous amount of respect for many physicians. So in a way, but it's a real thing. You know what I mean? Particularly if doctors can't be experts in everything either. So that's why I really like the North American Menopause Society, like zip code in, find a doc.
That's how I found mine.
Like good. Really interested in this issue because just like you can't know everything. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I was lucky. I'm like, okay, I know Amanda Thebe told me on our podcast about the National Menopause Society. And I was like, okay. My obstetrician from a long time ago helped me birth my son. She was like backed up and not taking clients for months. And I'm like, I'm going to find someone in my area that specializes in this. And I was able to do it that way. And thank goodness it worked.
Good. That's great.
Yeah. Is that more of like a new thing? The National Menopause?
Had it for probably like 5 or more years. Yeah. Yeah. But I think that maybe more clinicians are getting on board. Certainly seeing a lot more online participation of physicians delivering menopause information. And you can also get medication from them as well online.
And speaking of getting online medication, I know there's a lot of places that sell the HRT and you can just literally go online and be like, oh, I want to get HRT. And they're like, book a phone call with me. How legitimate are those?
I really don't know. I don't know how to determine that.
It's like those epic Wegovy clinics.
Yes. I don't know. I mean, I'd start with the North American.
We have to, acknowledge that a lot of people live in areas where there aren't a lot of specialists. So it just as long as people, try to do their homework to the best of their ability and maybe run a recommendation by their primary care doctor. Does anything sound crazy to you? But, there are a lot of medical deserts in this country where people, and they kind of have to rely on. Yeah. It's one of the silver linings of the pandemic is there's more ability.
More telehealth.
Also more ability for people to be taken advantage of.
To be scammed. Yeah.
We've definitely seen that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oof. One more question, because a lot of the other ones I have are kind of repeats and said differently in the same way.
We got you. Yeah.
Same thing.
You get what I'm putting down? Okay.
We get it.
Is there any correlation between time of the last meal and severity of night sweats?
I've never seen any research. No.
I mean, eating late can be disruptive to your sleep. And if that somehow brings you to a level of awakeness that might trigger a hot flash. I don't know. All people could try is to not do it and see if their night sweats.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Eat very lightly at night, which we recommend anyway. We're big fans of, letting your body go between 10 and 12 hours without food. Most of the time is spent sleeping. Don't kill yourself to do it. I mean, it's not an absolute rule. If you're hungry, eat something small, but don't wait until dinner to have most of your food. And
right.
Yeah.
Is there a correlation between certain foods and hot flashes?
In terms of triggers, alcohol.
Yeah.
And like hot beverages can trigger hot flashes.
Right? They can in some women. See, I think the thing to note here is that it's different in every single different in every woman, but there are some commonalities, like as Hillary was saying, alcohol, caffeine, really spicy foods, really like hot foods, hot temperature wise, those types of things tend to be triggers. So But we ask women all the time, limit or avoid alcohol, limit your caffeine. You shouldn't be relying on, caffeine for your energy level. And, in terms of the other foods, you have to figure out what bothers you.
I'm just going to mention one thing, and it's anecdotal just because I think it's interesting, because I was talking to Liz about this. So I have the patient who had a hysterectomy and has had terrible hot flashes, was having a lot of trouble dealing with them, and has a mom who had estrogen receptor positive breast cancer. So she couldn't do hormone replacement therapy. She started doing, basically, medical cannabis is legal in Massachusetts. She started doing very low dose supplement that was a little bit of CBD, a little bit of THC, and she found it very helpful. So it's an anecdotal thing, and it's not for everybody, but there are a lot of, for her hot flashes were mostly late afternoon into the evening and at night. So she would do this at about 5 o'clock and has found significant relief. So that's an N=1 situation.
Right.
But we're all trying to learn more.
Yeah.
Like cancer treatment place, the nutritionists end up talking about medical cannabis, mostly gummies and things like that for patients experiencing nausea, loss of appetite. And for some people, it can be very helpful. So we're all on the learning curve and acknowledging that people are doing this and dabbling in it. And so to have some sense of that, I think it's important for people to be talking about it, at least to some degree, because otherwise you're getting your advice from like your teenage. Right. So I just think that's interesting.
Funny you say that. Me and Matt started working with Cured. They're a CBD company, actually. And they have like a sleep packet. And I started taking one of their sleep things. And it's actually, I've been sleeping, better than I have in a long time. It's not like pre-baby sleep, but it's definitely, I can notice that it's helping. So there may be a correlation. I don't know. I mean, it's still new. I've still been taking it for maybe almost a month, but I'm kind of a fan.
Yeah. I'm not a woman going through menopause, but I've also taken those same supplements, and I've noticed my sleep quality has improved as well. So like you said, anecdotal, but CBD, and there's a microdose of THC.
Is CBD by itself helpful? Does it need a twinge of THC, like in the nausea, appetite stimulation world of the oncology patient? You need a little THC, but you can get a little without getting psychoactive effects, maybe getting some benefits. So again, it would be a start low and go slow. But for people like this particular patient who didn't have any options because she couldn't take hormone replacement therapy.
Yeah.
I'm really excited
for her, and she's got an important job and she's able to deal with life better.
Quality of life matters. So and if that's working for her, that's I love that for her.
Yeah.
And like you said, like that anecdotal, of course, but there's lots of exciting research I think that can be done, and it's gonna, has been done, I think too, in that area too. So who knows what will come of all of that.
Well, it's one of those things I think everybody needs to talk about more, or people getting their education from the person who works at the dispensary or from just their peers, So I think if people have, this is becoming more common across the country where it's legal for whatever reason, recreational or medical use. And so we're just scratching the surface of learning, but it's an interesting.
Yeah. It's legal here in Maine too.
It's legal here in Ohio for medical reasons, if you have a medical license for it. So for exemption. Cool. Wow.
This was such a fun podcast. I love having you ladies.
Yes.
Anytime.
Yeah.
And you're also
behind us saying,
guest,
we don't know.
So.
You got to ask a doctor.
We love a good I don't know. We do. We really do.
Nothing's worse than when people, like we always say, we don't like when people get in our lane who don't have qualifications. We try not to get in other people's lane.
Totally. And we're here to cut the crap. So
what she really means to say is we don't like bullshitters. So
you're in the right place.
Yeah.
We thank you so much for coming on again.
Yes.
Before we say goodbye, though, would you like to tell people where they can learn more about you in case I didn't hear you on here the first time? And then please plug your book, too, because I think that could benefit people.
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay. Well, our book is the Menopause Diet Plan, a natural guide, a natural.
Like what do we call it?
Yeah, I know. Isn't that bad? I almost gave you like the subtitle to one of my other books.
Yeah. Well, it's the Menopause
Guide to
Diet
Hormones, Health, and Happiness.
There we go.
You know what? We changed the title a few times, and I don't know, I always stick with the original. It's called the Menopause Diet Plan.
Yeah.
Just go on Amazon, and this is what happens when you get older and you go through menopause. So it's the Menopause Diet Plan. You can find it anywhere, online booksellers. Also, we're on Instagram at Menopause Diet Plan. That's where we're most active, but we're also on TikTok
We laugh the most.
at Menopause. Okay. At Menopause Diet Plan. And we're also on Facebook at Menopause Diet Plan.
Awesome.
Imagine that. Yay.
And the information in the book is for healthful aging as well. So it's not just for the menopause transition. Everything else is completely applicable to the rest of your life.
Amazing. Ooh,
Thank you so
Punch
much.
Becky, you're it. Thanks, ladies.
Okay, thank
Talk to you later.
Hope you enjoyed this episode, so why not share with a friend who needs to hear it? Send us a DM on Instagram or email us at cutthecrappod@gmail.com and join our Patreon at patreon.com/cutthecrappodcast. As always, we appreciate you and thanks for being here.